may not be suitable for all audiences.
And his composition is to put the object right in the center. You know, he doesn't know the rule of thirds. This is a disaster.
Art 101 with Mr. Burgher.
Well, scholars, welcome back to another episode of Art 101 with me, Mr. Burgher. As you know by now, I hope, I'm a professional artist and a master educator, and I'm here to try to provide you with the best in our historical content. If you like the content, interact with the content. Appreciate you. Let's get into it.
Shortly.
May is Photography Appreciation Month, I believe. I think that's the title of it. And put out this question asking if there was a particular photographer that the Art 101 scholars wanted to be highlighted more than another. And I would say a number of folks clearly were wanting to back and get information on Grace Robertson. And so today we're going to talk about the British photographer, photojournalist, Grace Robertson, and look at some of her work in several series that were pretty popular. So let me stop yapping here and start to show you some images. There are so many different offshoots of art, it's unbelievable. Fine art versus craft, graphic designers and photographers, and one of the great photographers under the umbrella of photojournalism is Grace Robertson. A British photographer who is self-described as Scottish, was a phenomenal photojournalist and had her works published in several publications including Picture Post and Life magazines. She grew up during a time when the middle-class girls had three basic jobs that they would aspire to becoming. Probably the most popular was becoming a teacher, because that was something that they actually saw and could easily identify with. The second would have been secretarial work, and the third was to go into nursing. And typically, these jobs were done until you found your future husband who you would have developed a family with, and then possibly quit that job so you could stay home and raise your children. Now for Grace Robertson, none of these jobs were all too appealing, and to some degree seemingly unattainable. Not because of anything intellectual, but because of the circumstances of her life. Let me explain. She grew up in Manchester, England, and left school at the age of 16 to help care for her mother, who was severely afflicted with arthritis. As she got a little bit older, she became very interested in photography, and her dad, who was a journalist and a guy who wanted to support his daughter, ended up buying her a Leica camera, which was one of the fairly decent cameras coming out of Germany at that time. Some of those early photos were published in her father's magazine, well, where he worked. It wasn't his magazine, he was a journalist there, but you understand. And some of those early works were published under a fictitious name of Dick Murr to avoid her father's association with her, and also because this was a largely male-dominated profession, she wanted to be taken more seriously as a female photographer, and so she used a fictitious name.
How are you? We are three wise men. What? We are three wise men.
There were several series, including Mother's Day Off and Childbirth, that very much recorded women in this post-World War II Britain and were very cutting edge in photojournalism.
We need him to understand what it feels like to be us.
Mother's Day Off was a documentation of a 3-day weekend where these working class women were out enjoying their time away and with complete freedom. There were several iconic photographs in that series, specifically of women on roller coasters in an amusement park type setting and things like that were very, very fun photos. At any rate, these were published in 1954. And this was again the subject of an identical series that was done in 1956. Side note, Mother's Day in the United Kingdom goes all the way back in its origins to the 16th century as a custom of Mothering Sunday, which always fell on the 4th Sunday of Lent, but did not become an official holiday until it was proclaimed by President Woodrow Wilson on May the 9th, 1914, as a public thank you to all of the mothers.
That's it. That's my bad, mother.
Childbirth was a series of photographs that would have been published in 1955, and this was a series of photographs depicting women in labor and delivery. Now keep in mind, in the 1950s, dads weren't even allowed to watch the labor and delivery of their wives. They had to sit in a lobby and wait for their children to be born. They were very much not a part of the process. And so to have somebody actually capturing these images, well, that content was considered explicit at the time, and these would have been some of the very first images of childbirth ever shot and published.
I don't understand. There's been a little mistake.
Now, Grace Robertson would work as a freelance photographer and advertising photographer for many, many years, and after having 2 children of her own, she would slow down on the photography and become an elementary school teacher from 1966 until 1978. Although she would continue to take some photographs on the side, her focus was much more on the rearing of her family than going out and taking photos. In the 1980s, as her family was kind of growing, she would make the professional decision to walk away from teaching and education, and she would begin to pursue painting as an artistic outlet, while always maintaining her love and passion for shooting photographs. As photographers and as photojournalists, it's individuals like this that would capture the world as it was so that we can look back and have a true and accurate record to some degree of what their time was like. Grace Robertson, through the use of the tool of the camera, captured images that would allow us to see into that time. She would capture images that would allow us to get a glimpse of what life was like in post-World War II Britain and how that country really rebuilt itself after this horrible war that took place. And what an inspiration. Hopefully that inspires you not just to use that camera phone as a toy to take selfies and snapping the occasional shot of your lunch, but to really capture something authentic, to capture something real, and to show life as it truly is around us for posterity and for the future, to really get a glimpse of what your life was truly like. And we can thank Grace Robertson for that great example.
Scholars, I hope you enjoy that as much as I love being able to bring that content to you. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, do all those things and interact. I'm also starting a podcast. I've got stuff on Redbubble that you can look at. I've got all kinds of things from artwork to other venues of distributing information. So be that as it may, we'll see you next time, and you have yourself a great day.
Oh, animal. Oh,